Well, Benji Brady, we are back in for our 38th episode. 38th.
I think it's 37.
It is 37. I'm getting excited that we're so close to 40. So
Brady, I'm really disappointed. You had a chance right there for 6-7.
Well, I thought about it, but it's 3-7.
Oh,
this now makes 2 episodes in a row that y'all have made a 6-7 joke.
Maybe he trends the new 3-7. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't. In all seriousness, I can't go anywhere without my daughters making a joke. Hey, mom, dad, what time's dinner? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
6 or
Maybe
7.
6-7. Yeah.
So bad. So,
What in the world?
But hey, before we jump into today, just a couple housekeeping things. Real quick, we're on our last few episodes of season 3.
2025.
Yeah, 2025. So, listeners, we're getting ready to. We've got about 2 more episodes we're going to record, and those will be out before the end of the year. And then we'll be taking a little bit of a break, but it shouldn't mess up too much of the flow of things. You might have a couple weeks where we take off, and we'll come back strong in January. But holidays get crazy, travel happens, obviously you guys got a lot going on, so many franchises you got to visit and things. So it gets busy. So,
yeah.
But yeah, just kind of know that that's coming. So we'll do that. Of course, we'll have things on social. We'll have things where you guys can kind of understand, and something that we haven't put out yet, but we will, because we were ready to say it on the podcast before we did anything else.
Had to.
Benji, I'll let you do the honor, because look, this whole thing from day one was your idea. You brought it up to me, and then we did some for a while, and then we brought on Brady. But man, we had a big milestone this week.
Yeah, man, we're just thankful for our listeners and watchers on YouTube, and we crossed the 10,000th download of all of our podcasts. Thank you guys so much for listening in every other week, and just appreciate the feedback that you give us. Thank you for those that reach out and just say, hey, can you help me? We're here to help you guys any way we can. Again, we're in the big scheme of things. We're in a small business as well, just like most of you. But we also can cater to the larger businesses as well. And we don't shy away from it. The Christ is the center of everything that we do. And that's why we believe that we are good stewards of the business that the Lord has entrusted Brady and I with our team. And so we just, again, want to thank you all for just tuning in each and every week. Adam sends out the, where we're at in the process of downloads. And again, like he said, we just surpassed 10,000, and thank you guys so much. It means a lot to us.
And did a little dive in just to kind of look before we jumped into today. But they say, we could looking at a year, right? So we really kind of rekindled this. We started back roughly a year ago, bringing Brady on so we could dive deeper into some of these topics. But within a year, they say only roughly 25 to 30% of all podcasts reach that mark in a year time. You would think, you would think it would be a little bit more, just because you're like, man, that's a year you're pumping out content. But there's just, podcast world is a saturated market. It seems like everybody has one, but I mean, it's great because everybody's got something to listen to. And man, we just appreciate you guys listening to our crazy banter, talking about business, talking about just faith and how that's applied. I mean, that's a big deal, and we appreciate you guys here. And just so you guys know, typically when a new episode comes out, I always check every day by the end of the day, just see how things are. But we typically have anywhere from 75 to 100 and something downloads on the day it comes out, which means people are listening day one when it comes out, subscribing, they're seeing it, and then they're picking up. And just appreciate you guys sharing it and everything. It helps. So it's awesome. We're excited.
Yeah, very excited.
So, well, hey, let's jump in to today's episode. I know this is a big one for you guys, especially as we're coming toward the end of the year, but we're talking a little bit about forecasting. So, Benji, why don't you jump in a little bit, kind of share with our listeners today, what that kind of entails. I mean, you hear the word forecasting, you kind of know, people, hey, where are we at? How are we looking to end of the year? What can we do to pivot? We've talked about all these different topics. So now how do we kind of see what's coming?
Yeah, well, I think what happens, and we kind of did a similar episode at the end of last year, Brady. Actually, I think it was the beginning of this year, Brady, if I remember right, of 2025. But forecasting your business, a lot of times when, depending on where you are in business, you get comfortable, people get complacent, they start trying to not think about new strategies and trends and how the Google world works and, whatever the case may be. I'm sure like you, we've got all kinds of spreadsheets. You've got all kinds of spreadsheets. And this is a topic actually very near and dear to Brady's heart as well. Just how do we properly forecast? Let's look back on the year. Let's figure out where we've come from, the strategies that we put in place. What can we do to build on that as we move into yet another year? And just to kind of open it up, if you think about this, how do you forecast your company? Think about a GPS system, right? Or a compass, for instance. If you've got a compass in your hand, if you're in the middle of the woods and you're a hunter and you don't know which way is north, south, east, and west, I mean, it could get you in trouble. You don't want that to happen. So you need that navigation piece. Doesn't mean you're not going to run into bumpy situations, but you can definitely prepare yourself for those different turns. And here's a question to think about. Okay, are you running? I should say, are we? I shouldn't say you. Are we running our businesses based on direction or just on default? Right? We've invested our time, our family's money. How do we take good, as we talked about being good stewards of this, how do we take this and build it each and every year? Because we're those people that don't want to get comfortable and complacent, right? We don't want to just status quo. We've been there. Brady could attest to that too. We've been there. Yeah. We don't want to do that because we believe in growing. And it's more about not just growing our business, it's about growing the kingdom as well. So that's the thing. A leader without a forecast is like a pilot without a flight plan. And if you think about that, we as leaders have to figure out a way to forecast. And no one's saying go out here and build this huge strategy that is unaccomplishable, right? 1 or 2 or 3 things that you can work on to help you in your business. Brady, just from a forecasting piece, what has helped us in our business from your perspective that has helped us become, each year we're getting better and better and better at our processes? What's something you think comes to mind?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think, when I think about GPS, we love our acronyms, right? So GPS, Adam.
We have one for everything.
We got one for everything. But when I think about GPS, and you're talking about that North Star or that thing that you're looking at, I think GPS stands for goals, plans, systems. So when you have the GPS, because things are going to come up, like you said, things are going to pop up, and we're going to hit bumps in the road. We're gonna hit roadblocks. We're going to see down months. We're going to see down quarters. We're going to see up months and up quarters. Then the GPS is the thing that is kind of, when you get in the car, and this is kind of funny. A little bit of a side note, but we were in Melissa's car the other day, and Apple CarPlay, everybody's using that, and she had a couple saved places up on her thing that were probably from like 10 years ago, and I was like, "Did you not know, where you were going?" She goes, "Oh no, 100%." But I didn't. I needed to see the traffic. I needed to see how long it was going to take me to get there in case I needed a different route.
And I
was like, "Oh man, that's a good leadership thing right there." So goals, plans, systems, and I think, Benji, when you said think about running your business, the thing that came to mind was really the question is, are you running your business, or is the business running you?
Oh yeah, that's good.
Because I think sometimes we get caught in the rut and the routine. And I mean, in several different circles, it's called the whirlwind. We've got to be able to step out of that. And that's what this season's all about. And strategic planning and forecasting for 2026 is, how do we look to the future and plan for, so when those things come up, how do we stay on track?
That's good. And Brady, you just brought up the next point. Great leaders don't predict the future. We prepare for it.
That's
because
right.
you cannot predict what's coming, but you can prepare for it. I've said this for a long time, and I know people laugh at me. We control what we can. We can control the non-negotiables. We can control the process. We can control the system. We can control the training. But what we can't control is what we don't know is coming. So that's a good resource. Think about this. Forecasting isn't just a financial exercise. It's a strategic foresight, thinking about the strategy as we move forward. Forecasting isn't fortune telling, it's decision prepping. So think of, again, if you don't remember anything else from this episode, we as leaders don't predict the future, we prepare for it. And that's important. And you could be, maybe you're not actually running the business. Maybe you're an investor. Maybe you are showing up consistently for your team in some form or fashion. Maybe you're a customer and you want to not have to have a quote broken water line. Adam, you're at what, like number 8 or 9 now, I think.
And you're in the double digits at this point.
My wife has us going to look at a house tomorrow. It's probably the 7th house she's looked at.
Wait,
He's
is
ready
it
to
6th or the 7th?
Uh-oh. There we go. There we go.
Got to be better.
But think about this. If you can prepare, whether it's in your personal home, whether it's in your business, whether it's running your business in your home, and by the way, I'm guilty of this as well. How often do we actually replace our water lines going to our washing machine? You know, because those things don't last forever. And I probably should do that. I'll make a mental note of that. Just a couple of things. We want to talk about 5 key components of proper business forecasting, okay? The first one is this: know your baseline. Start with where your past performance trends. What's predictable? What might fluctuate, okay? If you can't, and Brady does this every single week with our team. We have a weekly cadence meeting with the leadership for about 2 hours on Monday morning, and it is our 12 to 24 months of clean data. That's where you start with the baseline. What are the trends looking like? Are you moving in this direction, or are you moving in a south? We don't like to use the word, are we moving in a southeast trend? We want to move in a northeast trend. So we're constantly growing. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Benji. No, I was just going to say, I think a key component here is, John Maxwell says that the first definition of a leader is to define reality. And so your past performance defines the reality for going forward. I mean, most people probably listening are leaders or owners or CEOs or whatever the case may be. And we tend to look at 2026 and go, we're going to knock it out of the park. We're going to have double digit, triple digit, double volume, whatever these things are. And I'll just be transparent for us for this year. We had some pretty significant goals that we want to try to hit. Now, we've had a pretty decent year, but we're not going to hit the goals that we set for this year because we were probably a little aggressive and we weren't as realistic. And so what we've talked about with our team for this year or going into 26 is, guys, we need to be a little bit more realistic. So let's set realistic goals. Not that we can't have a stretch goal, but we need to set realistic goals so that we can try to achieve those.
Yeah, it's good. Brady's used this analogy before about the rearview mirror and the glass, the window in front of you. We can't see ahead clearly if our rearview mirror is foggy. So we have to be willing to look at the trends, know what that baseline is. The second thing is this, is to segment your forecast. What does that mean? Break it down by category. What are your different revenue streams, right? What are your different opportunities out there? What are your threats out there? Maybe it's a department that you're trying to improve a process or increase productivity or increase sales or whatever those things may be. Maybe it's adding a different location. Maybe you have a goal out there to have more locations. Maybe it's a product that you're trying to do. So segment those forecasts. The worst thing you could do is try to do all of them, though. Pick one or two and focus on that. That is what will help set you up for success. And don't forecast in a one lump number. Brady just mentioned that. Dissect it, break it down, make it more achievable. At the end of the day, you can't have a business without being profitable unless you're a nonprofit business. And that's you have to remember that.
They still have profit, believe me.
They do.
They don't call it profit, but
that's correct. They have to zero it out at the end of the year and they start over fresh, the next year.
Yeah, and I think a good point here too is I've got a friend of mine that owns a really large financial company, and we've never done this before, Benji, but I think it's I like the way that he thinks about it. So they plan for the next year, but they almost use like the mountain analogy
Mm-hmm.
to where, like, if you're going to climb Mount Everest, well, the peak is the goal, but you have to have different milestones to get to. Now, I've never climbed Mount Everest, so I'm only speaking out of what I've heard, but you have to get to a certain point, and then you have to acclimate. And then you got to get to another point, and you have to acclimate, because the further you get up, the thinner the air gets, and if you don't prepare the right way, then you won't be able to hit the next point to be able to get to the peak. And so that's the way they set their business up, is to get to these, I forget what they call them, but it's basically milestones to get to that next point. Sit there for a minute, celebrate, regroup, but the ultimate goal is the peak of it.
Yeah. And remember this, if you have a leadership team that, let's assume there's 3 or 4 managers under you, owner out there, it's easier to assign the ownership and hold them accountable than it is to try to do it all yourself. Sometimes we as owners, we try to maintain everything. We try to control everything. And it's not like, Brady and I have 2 things that we do not let go of. We do not let go of the checkbook. Yeah, people help us make sure things are involved on making sure that our numbers are updated properly. But when it comes to banking systems and things like that, that is one thing we do not let go of. There are only 2 people, actually 3 people, that have access to, quote, sign checks for us. And we do that on purpose. We don't, and they're all family members. We're a family-run business. But you can assign those as you're segmenting your business out there, segment those forecasts, use your management team, but hold them accountable to the process. If you're not going to allow them to bring ideas to the table, and you're not going to allow them to, and you're not going to hold them accountable to the thing that they're supposed to do for that week or that month or that quarter, why do you have them? Use them to your advantage. The third thing is this: define your assumptions. Brady just talked about this, the growth rate. If you're going to climb the mountain, you do have to take a pause, look out, get acclimated, and then move to the next thing. Different seasons, right? Different seasons churn different opportunities for you. Let's be honest. In the winter times, most people stay indoors, right? When it comes to spring and summer, they're ready to go to the beach, they're ready to go to the mountains, they're ready to do this, whatever. But make sure that you know who your customer base is, and the lead time that you have for each of those customers. That's important. What are those different trigger points out there? And run you some best what if scenarios. You may have a best case, a worst case, and then some people like to say, here's the likely case is possibly going to happen. But you could run here's what we want to get to. Here's what we don't want to go below. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, here's probably what's reasonable, what's out there. Because every forecast is a story. Your assumptions are just a plot. Adam, I'd like to stop here a second and ask you something, because there may be some people listening that are I'm gonna call you a single man operation, right? You run your business on the side of what you do for your church, and you're trying to grow that opportunity. So you don't have a wealth of people. You don't have you can hire different people to help from time to time, and we know you do that. But just from someone that might be listening, that's like, man, I'm a single woman show. How can I get some help? What advice would you give someone like that in this planning and forecasting process?
Well, one of the things that Emily and I typically do, we try to look ahead on what we're going to have coming up. Like, all right, we have retainer clients. That's something that we built on. That's a big thing. I love having one-off projects, but I have retainers, so I know what's coming in monthly. And so what we try to do is we meet regularly with our accountant to make sure that we look at what we're doing. Are we paying taxes right? Are we, this is what we're looking to do. And then, I really try to overly pay attention to my QuickBooks. Emily helps me with it. She's a QuickBooks wizard. Thank goodness. That's what she does at her job. So she fixes anything that I have. But some of the things that we really try to look at is what are our necessities? So at the beginning of the year, and this is something that we're going to start doing more, but we set a goal for the year financially. Hey, this is what I want to hit by the end of the calendar year. And we operate normal, so end of the year ends. And I'm excited because we're about 4,000 away from that. We've had some really good opportunities the Lord blessed us with this year. And so We know that. But then we also try to plan purchases because, that's the tough part is that, they say anywhere from 3 to 5 years in your first business, you don't make money. And so that I wanted to change that rhetoric. How can I, and because I am positioned in a good way where I have a full-time job and I am able to do this, my job allows me to, and I know not everybody's in that place.
Sure.
I tried to make sure that walking into this year, we didn't spend things that we didn't have to. I spent things that need to be done, but everything that I spend money on is to ensure that I can do more. For instance, the better, and I know people say obviously having the best camera gear doesn't do everything, but what it does allow me to do is charge a client more because I'm giving them a higher quality.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm giving them something larger, I'm giving them something bigger. And so that's some of the things that we look at, but we look at what our big purchases are for the year. Typically, I have a top 3 purchase. Hey, this is what I want to do by the end of the year. I want to buy this item, and this item. So that means I know, well, I've got to sell these certain jobs or I got to take these and then really look at it. But what I've really learned this year, and you mentioned it earlier, is leaning on other people for this, is that I have to. And just for instance, one of the things I do is I have a base that I charge to go do real estate photography. It's a one-man show. I walk in typically, I do it, I take the photos and I go home. Typically what I would try to do is just go home and I'd edit all those photos myself. Well, what I started doing is I started contracting that out to a company I found that does a really good job editing the photos. I'm the one taking them, so I'm getting what I want them to look like, but I've given that out to someone else that helps me. So now that time that I've spent, I'm working on something else.
Hmm.
And so I'm not spending time sitting there and editing photos for an hour and a half. I pay someone that's going to do that now I can work on another project. Or, one of the things I wanted to do this year is only take on projects that were large enough that I needed a crew. Because that meant what also means is when we're done, if I budget well, I can take that same person that I trust on my crew to edit the videos. Let me be there. Let me project manage. So it's definitely, it's a different world. It's exhausting doing it by yourself, especially in my world of media, setting up, tearing down. And so I've really had to make sure that I'm careful about who I'm choosing to be on my team. One thing I've really learned, and you guys have always taught me this. One thing I've learned even more this year is if they're not helping me, why am I using them?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, why am I paying someone to be there if I'm just doing what they do? So they need to be quality or I need to trust them more.
Right.
So, but those are some of the things that we've looked at this year. And honestly, to be very frank with you guys, this is the first year that we've ever done this type of revenue and been profitable with it. And so, it kind of puts me in that position.
That's awesome.
It's great. It's a great blessing. I mean, in all seriousness, a lot of the things that we do I do through my small business came from what you two have taught me in how to handle things, how to handle money. I mean, the note may not have anything to do with the episode, but I remember when we first started, Brady, I was talking to you and mentioning, I joked about, I can write it off. I'll do this. And you're like, if the whole point every year is to not make money, why are you doing it? And so I had to realize, all right, so now I need to be better about how do I get the equipment that I need, but still get the job done. Because if I'm not,
hey Adam, I got one question.
What's that?
When do I get my royalty check?
That's the best case scenario.
You made all this money this year. I'm like, no, I'm just kidding.
It was a lot, but it is. I will tell you, Brady, Benji, like you were saying, it's definitely. I have to be mindful, and I'm by myself. Here's what I would tell you: the biggest thing of anybody that's listening to Forecast, find people that are like-minded that can be in your circle.
Yeah.
Because I've always been told, and I'm probably gonna mess it up, but it's like if they're not just because they like you or something, it's like they're just because they're with you doesn't mean they're for you, And so I had to make sure that I closed my circle this year, and I wanted people that were champions for what I was doing and help me attribute that. How do I expand my vision? How do I expand my profit? So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. It absolutely does. And Brady, I'd have one question for you on that. So best case scenario, worst case scenario, likely scenario? Because I'm the guy that's like, man, we can go for the moon. Like we can get here. And Brady's like, hey, let's bring it back in a little bit. What would you tell the owner or manager out there who's trying to forecast with these different assumptions to think through as they're going for best, worst, and likely?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that comes to mind is a lot of times, yes, we do want to see the best in the forecasting model for the next year. But sometimes what that actually makes us do is make the decisions that we know that we need to make. Okay. So, for example, a lot of this comes around to people. And we've talked about EOS on here a lot, the entrepreneurial operating system. But if you're going to hit these forecasts, you need the right people in place to be able to do it. Yeah. So EOS, they have a thing called the People Analyzer, and the People Analyzer says for each person that is in a position, do they got it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think part of forecasting is analyzing your team and asking yourself the honest question. Do you have the right team to get you where you need to go? And you can't really forecast. I know our dad said this a lot, and it comes from John Maxwell, but a lot of people hope, and hope is not a good strategy. Well, I hope.
We had an episode on that. We had an episode on hope is not a strategy.
I hope that person gets better. Yeah. You're not going to hit those numbers or those profit percentages that you want to hit. You're not going to be able to hit the goals if you don't have the right people in place. So I think as you're looking for next year, I think you got to ask the question first, do you have the right people on the right seats on the right bus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, until you're in that position, Brady, because I used to say it a lot in our meetings. Well, that's what I hope you're doing, and you would always correct, like Adam, we can't live off that, like that can't be. But I think and this is where anybody that's listening, that maybe they're not an owner, you have somebody that's listening that's, maybe they're working for someone. You've got to figure out how to accept that mentality, even though the end goal may not be your profit, right? Like it may not be, you may not be the owner of the company, and that's something I've realized this year is I can't say, wait, man, I hope they take that, that estimate. I hope they do this, man. If they do that and then start planning, man, if they do it, then I won't be able to purchase this, or I can go do that. I can't get into that thinking. I've got to stay. This is where I'm at. This is what we have. This is we know is coming in, and this is how we can improve the business. Because for us, that's where the mode that we're in right now. Every decision we make, every purchase has to improve the business. It has to be able to allow me to charge more so I can do that. Because I mean, it may look like you make if you're doing 6 figures a year or something, that's great. But I can tell you, have you looked at your expense margin? Because that's where I feel like sometimes I'm getting hit as I'm looking back and I'm realizing, man, yeah, great. We did well this year. God blessed us. We were able to bless others. But man, I look at that expense margin, and I'm like, that's a lot more thin than I thought it was going to be.
That's the way.
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Brady.
I was just going to say another thing I was just thinking through here is two things is as we're forecasting for the next year and talking through, we can't just hope for it to happen. One, and we've talked about this many, many times on the show, is you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
So when you're forecasting, you've got to be learning, you've got to be growing, you've got to be reading books, you've got to be listening to podcasts. I'll brag on my son a minute. He's already read 2 books this year, and he just texted me the other day, and he goes, "Okay, I'm ready for the next one. What's the next one?" And I've got so many that I've churned through. I'm thinking through like, okay, what will be the best for him and in his season and his journey. And so he started reading a new book, which our leadership team is reading, called "Redeeming Your Time" by Jordan Rayner. That's a great book if anybody is looking for like a productivity type thing. The other thing is, so learn and grow. The other thing is, Adam, you're talking about surrounding yourself with good people, right? In C12, which we've talked a lot about too, our material last month was surrounding yourself in 3 different areas. And so we really looked at the life of Paul and what he did and who he was surrounded by. And he had, number one, a Barnabas. So a Barnabas was a mentor to him. He was, so you've got to find a good mentor, somebody that's, if we want to forecast, don't we want to talk to the people that's already been there and done that?
Yep.
Because they've already gone through the mistakes, and we don't have to make some of those pitfalls that they've already gone through. So he had a Barnabas. Number 2, he had a Luke. So he had a peer of people that were speaking into him, holding him accountable, and helping him stay on the right path. And then number 3, he had a Timothy. So he was a Timothy, a Titus, all these people that he was mentoring himself. And so as leaders, a lot of times I think that we probably have the Timothys and the Tituses, but maybe we don't have the Lukes and the Barnabases. And so, a group like C12 or some other people, other groups out there can help you. And then find people, like I said, that's already been there and done that, and they can help you avoid a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Brady, I'm gonna blow your mind. I was on a plane ride not too long ago, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna actually another audiobook. I did an entire audiobook there and back. It's called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, excuse me. If you haven't, that's a great book to do. But hey, guys, we got just 2 more things real quick, and we're gonna wrap the show up. This is one that is near and dear to every for-profit business. So I want to make that clear. Forecasting your cash flow separately. Very, very important. Profit and cash. Watch for the timing gaps in receivables and payables. Now, I know some of you may be in the service industry where you're cash on demand, right? You have a service done, you pay cash right then. So you don't have any receivables. But or maybe you might have some commercial businesses that pay on a 30-day cycle or whatever. Watch the timing gaps in those. Maintain a rolling 13-week cash forecast. We do a really good job at our organization, thanks to Brady and our team, of helping us keep a rolling forecast out there. I love this quote. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is survival. I'm going to say it again. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is survival. And then the 5th thing is this. Review and revise regularly. If you're going to forecast something out there, please, 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 we beg you, don't set it and forget it. That's the worst thing you could do. We talked about this last year when we were talking about strategic planning, is leaving the booklet up on the shelf. Review it monthly. Review it quarterly. Have your team bring that thing out and talk about what applies to their specific role in their department. Update it, because you may accomplish something. Adjust your course. Don't abandon your plan. Okay, think about this in the sports world. If we're going to go out and we're going to be a great offensive team and a great defensive team, we have to have a plan. We got to block, we got to tackle, we got to run, we got to protect the ball, we got to do this, we got to try to intercept the other team's ball. There's all those things. Don't abandon the plan. Whatever the coach comes up with, stay on track, because forecasting is not about being right. It's about being ready. That's important. It's not about us being right. It's about us being ready, because you never know what is coming. So as we wrap this up, just a couple leadership takeaways for you. Clarity builds your confidence. Okay, your team performs better when they know how things are going and where things are going. So keep them in the loop. Keep each other accountable to the process. Forecasting shows respect. It shows that we take the future seriously for them, not just for us. So keep that in mind. It shows respect to you and your team. And then decisions love deadlines. Forecasting adds the structure to when, not just what you decide. So think about those deadlines. Again, I mentioned this before, control what you can, but forecasting isn't about control. It's about stewardship. It's about what the Lord has given you and being a good steward of that. Guys, anything you want to add as we wrap up the episode?
Hope people that are watching on YouTube aren't judging me, because I've been taking notes on what y'all been saying the whole time. If I was not texting and things, so if our viewers watching, like, what is Adam doing? It's not like taking notes on what y'all are saying. Because
Adam, that royalty percentage just went up.
It did. It did. Well, here's just a couple call to action, guys, and wrap up. Challenge yourself. Okay, pull out your current forecast, where you're at right now. Where is it relying on hope instead of data? We just talked about that hope. Don't operate on hope, operate on data. Now, I will tell you, sometimes you can have too much data. I got a buddy of mine who is involved in spreadsheets and websites and all kinds of stuff. And like, dude, you got to get out from behind your desk. Like, you got to go, you got to get in the field and see what's happening. You got to talk to your people. You got to mentor. Next thing, not just challenge, encourage. If you don't forecast because it feels uncertain, that's exactly why you should forecast your company. And then maybe share a tool, template, with someone. Maybe you can pass it forward, so to speak. And as we close, forecasts don't eliminate uncertainty, but they give your leadership a compass, a direction of where you're heading. And again, as Adam said, if you're the 10,001 listener listening in on this, we appreciate so much what you do for our show, Higher Up Podcast. You can connect with us on higheruppodcast.com. If this is the first time you're tuning in, you can find all ways of social and ways you can subscribe and join our mailing list. But as always, we appreciate you guys. Go out and choose to live a higher up life. We'll see you next time.